Ask Me Anything, episode number 10. I hope everybody's having a good weekend. This is actually the finale of the Ask Me Anything series for the 2021 regular season. I'm not 100% sure yet what I'm going to do when it comes to this series moving into the playoffs and into the off season. I'm still going to do them every once in a while, but definitely not as often as I did throughout this season. I will bring it back on a week-by-week basis next year, though, for sure. I'm going to try to keep this video shorter than most of the Ask Me Anythings just because I'm still recovering from a cold. I got a sore throat. I find it hard to talk for an extended period of time. But of course, if you guys do enjoy these Ask Me Anything videos, then be sure to leave the video a like. That's the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this is your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And now let's begin. The first comment of the video comes from Thomas H, who says, thoughts on Bedard, Wright, and Michkov after that U18 tourney. That was wild. It was pretty nuts to see the youngest players in that tournament dominate to the extent that they did. Bedard had what, like a 2 points per game through 7 games, scored that insane goal in the championship against Russia. Matvei Michkov had 12 goals in the 7 games he played, and there was one game where he scored a lacrosse goal and like a through the legs one-timer in the same game. The 2023 draft is going to be pretty nuts, headlined by those guys. And then obviously Shane Wright, he did Shane Wright things. He was amazing as well. He's going to be the first overall pick in the 2022 draft. Basically what I took away from watching those guys play in the tournament, Wright, Michkov, and Bedard, is that the future of hockey is in fantastic hands. This next comment comes from Young Grady, who says, which dark horse team do you think has a chance to go deep in the playoffs, and which powerhouse team do you think is most likely to choke early? In terms of a powerhouse team to choke early, I think we could see Tampa Bay lose in the first round to the Florida Panthers. I wouldn't be all that surprised by that. Florida has played Tampa Bay really well this season. Obviously they are getting Kucherov back, but is he going to be 100%? Even if he is fully healthy, it's still going to take him a while to get back to game speed and get used to playing in games, especially playoff games. And in terms of a dark horse team that could go on a run, I feel like this one's a little bit tougher. Maybe Nashville. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that team, but they are riding a lot of momentum right now. UC Saros is playing out of his mind, so maybe they could do some damage, but I wouldn't count on it. Moving along now, this next comment comes from Braden Sample, who says, what team do you think could go from not making the playoffs this year to making it next year? For me, the safest bet would be to say the Dallas Stars for sure. They're going to have Tyler Seguin back for the full season. Ben Bishop is going to be back by then, and hopefully they don't have an outbreak to start next season like they did this year, because that was obviously a pretty major setback. It condensed their season a lot. They played a lot of games in a short period of time, and that couldn't have been easy. The New York Rangers are another team I think is capable of making it next season. Philadelphia, I would say, would be a safe bet as well. The Flyers are on this just ridiculously long streak of making the playoffs one year and then missing it the next and then making it, so considering they missed it this year, if the pattern continues, then they're going to make it next year. This next comment comes from the Amazing Gamer 6736, who says, can we talk about the season UC Saros is having? He's top 10 in save percentage and is one of the reasons the Preds are going to the playoffs. UC Saros definitely does deserve to be talked about a lot more than he has been. He's quietly been having just a ridiculously good season, a 20-11-1 record, a 927 save percentage, and like you said, he's one of the reasons why Nashville is going to the playoffs, and I would say he's definitely the biggest reason why. And I think one of the bigger reasons as to why UC Saros isn't getting talked about a whole lot is because he got off to a really slow start to the season, but now, I mean, you could literally make a case as to why he should at least be a Vezina finalist. He's been that good. Moving on now, this next comment comes from Altner, who says, who in your opinion is the most underrated player in the NHL? And also, I really appreciate the kind words. If we're just basing it off of this season, I would say the most underrated player has been Mackenzie Weegar, defenseman of the Florida Panthers. In terms of defensive defensemen, you can make a case that he is the best in the NHL, and his workload has definitely increased since Aaron Ekblad went down. He's playing over 22 minutes a night, and on top of being just ridiculously good and steady defensively, he's putting up career offensive numbers. He's got 35 points in 53 games. And me personally, I'm really happy to see Weegar doing well at the NHL level and breaking out because he's a former Halifax Moosehead, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he was a 7th round pick, so he definitely turned out to be quite the steal for the Panthers. This next comment comes from Jake Borkowski, who says, what do you think would have to happen for a player to get kicked out of the NHL? This this is something that has been talked about a lot over the past week or so with everything that happened with Tom Wilson. And let me just say this, I don't think Tom Wilson should be kicked out of the NHL for what he did. Do I think he should have been suspended for a long period of time? 100%. But, you know, that's in the past now. In terms of what I think would have to happen for a player to get kicked out of the NHL, like permanently, honestly, I feel like they'd have to do something crazy, like full on attack somebody, use like their stick or like their skate as a weapon. I feel like it would have to be something so bad that would not only warrant being kicked out of the NHL for good, but also warrant being criminally charged, as messed up as that sounds. This next comment comes from Braden Mota. I'm sorry if I butchered the last name, but the comment is, hey, love the vids. I appreciate that. Why do you think Casey Mittelstadt is starting to produce? I think it's a combination of a lot of things with all the injuries the Buffalo Sabres have had this season, and with them, you know, trading players away like Eric Stahl. He's getting a lot more ice time and opportunity. Also, I don't think it's a coincidence that he started to produce and play better after Ralph Kruger got fired. And another thing, there's just no pressure on the Buffalo Sabres. There hasn't been for the majority of this season because of how bad they are, especially since Eichel's been injured, right? So I think it's been a combination of all those things I just mentioned, and it's nice to see. Hopefully Casey Mittelstadt can continue this momentum into next season and be a part of the solution in Buffalo. Continuing on now, this next comment comes from Devin, who says, what series in the playoffs are you most excited for? Out of the ones that are confirmed right now, I think it has to be Florida and Tampa Bay. I think it's going to be a real good series, and I mean, it's the first time those two teams have met in the postseason, which is pretty crazy. So I think that one should be really good. And then also Toronto, Montreal. I mean, that's just an age-old rivalry. I think that should be a lot of fun. There was dozens of comments on the post asking about this, so I figured I'd feature one and just kind of clarify. It comes from Graydon Calder. Why did you take down the Wilson video? So for those of you who don't know, I made a video on the whole Tom Wilson situation the night that they played the Rangers, where there was all those fights and it was just a crazy hectic game. It was getting pretty toxic in the comment section like right away. I think like 5 minutes after I uploaded the video, there was an entire comment thread of just a bunch of people arguing, and there were some pretty nasty things being said. So I really just didn't think it was worth it to keep the video up and have a bunch of people fighting in the comment section. And it wasn't a video I put a whole lot of work and time into. It was just kind of a quick little discussion video, so I was completely fine with taking it down. Next up from Gabby Digi 1911, will Dominic Ducharme be the man running the bench next year for the Habs? And also, I appreciate the kind words. I think Ducharme will be Montreal's coach next season for sure. It wouldn't be a great look on Marc Bergevin, in my opinion, if he decided to go with yet another new coach. He's already had Michel Therrien, Claude Julien, and now Dominic Ducharme, so he's his third coach. You know, at what point does Montreal Canadiens ownership start to say, okay, he's had all these new coaches and nothing's really working yet, so maybe is coaching not the problem? Is the general manager position the problem? Is Marc Bergevin the problem? So that's kind of my thought process. Again, I just don't really think it'd be a good look on Bergevin, so I think he's going to ride with Ducharme. From the Cat 12, should the Blackhawks make their practice jerseys alternates? Check their Insta if you haven't seen them. So after I read this comment, I went over to the Chicago Blackhawks Instagram and I checked it out, and I'm absolutely in love with those practice jerseys. They remind me of one of the City Edition jerseys, I think it was, that the Chicago Bulls had a couple years ago, and I loved that jersey. So yeah, I think it'd be sick if Chicago made these their alternates or a similar jersey to this with that color scheme. I just wish NHL teams went outside of the box more and got out of their comfort zone when it came to designing jerseys and designing, you know, alternates and special edition jerseys. If they did do things like that more often, I definitely think it would make them a whole lot of money. I think they'd sell really well. Next up from Tim Peel, do you think that Michael Rasmussen and Nolan Patrick need to have breakout seasons next year to not be considered busts? This is a difficult one. I don't think Nolan Patrick or Michael Rasmussen will ever live up to where they were selected in the draft, Nolan Patrick being 2nd overall, Rasmussen being 9th. That being said, they aren't bad players. They are NHL players. I think both of them are capable of having a long NHL career, and I'll speak on Rasmussen a little bit more than Patrick here just because I'm a Wings fan. I watch Rasmussen a lot more than Nolan Patrick, and as a Wings fan, I've actually been pretty happy with the way Michael Rasmussen played this season. I think he got a lot better as the season went along. He looked a lot more comfortable. He's getting really good at using his body to protect the puck. I mean, he's like 6'6". His skating has came a long way, so even if next season, if Michael Rasmussen has like 30 or 35 points in 82 games, I'll be happy with that. Again, I don't think he's ever going to be a star, live up to being selected in the lottery. Same goes for Nolan Patrick, but I do still think that they can be productive NHL players. From Samuel Paradis, if McDavid didn't exist, who would be your MVP pick? I'm 100% going to go with Austin Matthews. There are a lot of players you could throw into the conversation, but yeah, for me, it's got to be Matthews if you take McDavid out of the picture. He scored goals at just a stupid rate this season. His team won the North Division in terms of the regular season. This is a pretty interesting question from Mr. Fuzzy Wuzzy. When did you feel the most upset as a hockey fan? It's actually not too long ago. I'm sure most of you may already know the answer to this, but that would be the 2020 NHL Draft Lottery. It was just so deflating after going through that historically bad season. I watched every game and it was extremely painful, and you know, in the back of my mind I thought it's all going to be worth it. We're going to get Alexis Lafreniere, and then obviously 4th overall pick, and then a playoff team got Lafreniere. Now I'm not upset with Lucas Raymond. I think he's going to be a great player, but at the time that was definitely, I think, the most upset I've been as a hockey fan for sure. And now for the final comment of the video. This one comes from Bruins Boy 37, who says, who will get the backup in the playoffs for the Bruins? Halak is having a tough time, but Swayman is red hot. I'm of the belief that you ride the hot hand. I think it would be stupid not to, especially when it comes to goaltenders, because they are in most cases really streaky. In the playoffs, I feel like you should go with who's playing the best at that time, and obviously Swayman has been playing a lot better than Halak, so that's my answer there. So that is going to wrap up Ask Me Anything episode number 10, and that's going to wrap up the Ask Me Anything series for the 2021 NHL regular season. I just want to give a huge thank you to everybody who left a comment on any of the posts for any of these videos throughout the year. This was by far the most fun I've had doing a series on YouTube to date, and I definitely do plan on bringing this back for the 2021-22 season and doing it every weekend. I will sprinkle them in throughout the playoffs and throughout the off season for sure, but it won't be every weekend. I just don't want it to get too repetitive, and I don't want you guys to get bored of the series before next season starts. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy today's video, please be sure to leave it a like. That is, as always, the best way to show your support, and most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all in the next video.